are you in Tennessee? Because you're the only 10.
Previously on the Game Woven podcast. In the wake of Tarsig's laborers overthrowing the board of directors, the factory struts went quiet. The mercenary companies hired to enforce order disbanded, and the people of Tarsig and Overton began the work of figuring out what to do next. Meanwhile, outsiders seeking an opportunity for power and wealth flocked to the city. The nearly bankrupt Geyer family staked their claim on the remains of Strut Bison, while pirates occupied the port. But life goes on as Overtonian archivists began cataloging Tarsig's industrial and arcane innovations. The ghost of the bridge in Caldera caused machines to malfunction, and the Geyer family claimed that they would restore the peace and order that was lost, if only given consent to do so.
Emily, what's your prompt?
Okay, we have completed our first year in Tarsig. Which is interesting, because I just got the Queen of Summer. A project finishes early. Which one and why? If there are no projects underway, boredom leads to a quarrel. Well, there are projects under the way, so a project finishes early. Definitely not choosing Plague Town, because no.
That one's going to finish anyway.
It's going to finish anyway. I'm not going to help the would-be political campaign, so hey, Zad. Congratulations, buddy.
That industrial survey's finished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, he's out.
Cool.
They got it done real quick.
They did. That has to be because they found good contacts, right? They met with Yvain, and Yvain put them in contact with some of the other folks from Respite, and that got them around. And it's folks who have wanted to talk about the shit that they do and like actually do kind of take pride in their work when they're not having the hell kicked out of them for it. And so they get this really rapid insight to these manufacturing processes. And I think they even they take all these notes and they start doing a little bit of small scale stuff on the bridge.
We get a lot of notes on how to make it safer too from the boiler room witches.
Absolutely.
I feel like the boiler room witches in some ways are descendant from the original scientists who probably developed the technology for harnessing the magic into the different trinkets and objects. If there's one thing about scientists who make discoveries, it's they want to share. They want to talk about it. They are excited. This is their baby, and then they got slapped with an NDA.
I also think a lot of the boiler room witches, because a lot of those scientists may not have wanted to work with the super dangerous magic stuff hands-on. So they were a lot of the lab techs and the assistants that were being directed by the scientific supervisors, because of course there's a hierarchy and middle management. It's Tarsig.
Yeah, the people who run factories are not necessarily the ones who actually understand the scientific
How the
process.
factories runs.
When the factory's first made, you need those people there to make sure everything's working properly. But as time goes on, they're going to want to keep improving the process, which costs more money. Whereas what the company wants is just people who will make it go more efficiently. So those people slowly got downgraded in position until they were just the workers at the factory.
Until people forgot what they initially did.
Mm-hmm. I think the material thing that I'm going to take away from this is it creates a kind of enthusiasm for people to get back to work without the managers there. So some of the struts start kicking back on. You see it kind of probably over in RAM first, and they start making stuff again. But instead of those things being directed towards exports, and instead of making things that are useful to be sent out, they start making things that are useful to them and transporting it directly back to Respite. And we start seeing that. So I'm going to take magical goods off of our scarcities list. I don't think it can quite put it as an abundance just yet, but that's happening. And I'm also going to reprieve. I do keep calling it Respite.
It's part of its true name now.
Absolutely. Anyways, so I'm also going to take a contempt off of Tarsig.
That's fair.
Because this like it's another thing that's rallying the people together.
Do you think they've started recruiting help from Overton to help run the factories and get them back into working order again?
Yeah, I think like this is almost the MO of the city at this point of Overton. They show up at a place and immediately are just like, you know, it's the thing that Nairburn did for them. It's one of the big lessons that they carried forward. It's just like, show up, make yourself useful, do the best that you can, and then you can actually ask for the things that you need. And this doesn't have to be an adversarial relationship. It's not a zero-sum game. We can give these things to each other. So like, the honey divers have been working with the folks in Plague Town to figure out what to do with the scorpions now that the scorpions are gone. And I think that's just kind of like part of the charm of what's happening. So you get Overtonians getting trained in industrial processes and maintenance and stuff like that as this starts ramping back up again.
Speaking of the Plague Town Scorpions...
I was going to say, perfect segue.
School.
A project just finished.
So how'd that go?
Well, Plague Town has scorpions now. They do have them in their little scorpiaries.
Yeah, they have them intentionally.
Yeah, intentionally. I do think, since you just said that Overton was probably helping out, they're probably going to give some back to Overton as a thank you.
Oh, it's very sweet of you.
So that's for sure, like, a bit of sharing they're doing. So the honey is I'm going to say the honey's no longer a scarcity. It's not an abundance yet, again.
Overton Bridge will no longer have flying scorpions. Like, the population is no longer on the bridge. It's all here. So when the bridge leaves, they're out of scorpion.
I think they'll have maybe some of like the apiary like type things.
Okay.
Like, they'll have like some whatever like the boxes that they keep like hives in.
They've got like mini ones.
Yeah.
They just have micro flying scorpions, so they're like
They're being bred
rat
to be smaller and
size,
smaller.
like pet rat size.
Well, we also know that like the scorpions weren't like colossal or anything. They weren't like
No, they were
rideable.
not big enough to ride.
Yeah, they're like I don't know, like a small dog at most.
In comparison to normal scorpions, they're
still
giant,
huge.
but still.
Yeah, yeah. Scorpions, usually a lot of them are very tiny, like
Yeah,
a
little
couple
guys.
inches.
It's fun little dudes. A small, minor consequence is for sure some of those scorpions are getting mutated too. Not necessarily in fun ways, not necessarily in dangerous ways either. Just like, you know, that one has gills now.
Flying giant mutant scorpions.
Oh my god, they can swim now.
I mean,
One of them has just become a giant flying lobster now, effectively.
Yes.
incredible.
Did that scorpion just talk?
Huh?
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
What?
I think I am gonna take a contempt away from Overton because I think it was kind of a big bummer when the scorpion honey went dry. Like it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
That was our main source of sugar.
that was like
Yeah,
one of the few material things from Nairburn, because it's not like
Yeah.
they had a lot of material things from Nairburn, and that's where
Only the
a lot of
shrine.
residents-
I
Yeah.
tried
Mhm.
making my great aunt's honey cake, and I couldn't because I didn't have any honey.
So, I think that's definitely enough to take away from Overton.
Do we want to put that in the abundances?
I think it's just not a scarcity.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not an abundance. It's just not a scarcity. And
It just is.
Mm-hmm.
So Emily, it's now your time for an action.
I want to discover something new.
I can't wait.
We've had so many projects so far. So what I think happens is, they've been trying to kind of recover from the explosion and all of the uprising sort of business, making the place nicer. So they were kind of expanding outside of their little reach along the caldera, going down the side of the volcano, seeing if there's anywhere else they could add more buildings, resources, start to grow out a bit more now that it's somewhat less capitalist driven structure. And I think when they were doing this, they found something on the side of the volcano. They thought it was just a harder rock jutting out, but when they went looking, it's like, no, this isn't hard at all. This isn't a rock. This is bone. This is a fossil. And they started digging, and it took a while before they uncovered even just a bit of it. And it's just the tip of a skull at the top of the caldera. Looking for signs around, they think that this fossil of whatever creature this was circles the entire
That's pretty big. What kind of animal is it?
They don't know yet. They haven't seen it.
Leviathan 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Incredible. That's such a Pokemon town thing to have.
That is an extremely Pokemon town, absolutely.
Thanks, I got there from thinking about Godzilla somehow.
I mean, I'm thinking immediately of in Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, the final town, the town with the final boss with the ice gym, where it's literally just where the kaiju meet up and fight.
That's fair, I guess.
Anyway.
Yeah, but there's definitely the skeletal fossilized remains of some giant creature around this volcano, and they don't what.
Oh, I know what. I just had an idea. We'll get there.
And wait. But
Sick.
I will wait because it's now the lovely Bree's turn.
Yeah, we've made it all the way around.
Everyone
we did
give
do
yourself
that, yeah.
a round of applause. They said it could be done.
Well, let's do it again. Bree, your prompt is the 5 of Summer. A project finishes early. What led to its early completion, or there is an or this time. The weather is nice, and people can feel the potential all around them. Start a new project. So you can either finish a project early, but we only have the one project going that's going to complete this round anyway, or you can start a new bonus project.
I want to start a new bonus project.
Excellent choice.
So, this is the first time people in Tarsig are now no longer as restricted against using magic outside of just items, and people from Overton, we have to have that. There's obviously some magic users on there. So I think they get together to start trading information and make kind of sort of a magic school on one of the struts.
Of course they do. We were hoping you'd get there.
Nice. Which one are they taking over for that?
There's one that people thought was abandoned for a while, but really it's just been like a hideaway for boiler room witches and for the cats. Yeah, there's just this strut that everyone thought was like, oh yeah, that's not stable in boiler room witches. Like, hey, just give us a minute. 2 days later, fixed.
But it still looks like it's not.
Yeah. It doesn't look right, but they start learning not just like how to do magic, but like how it works, how to understand it, like how to teach and interact with things, because like there are different sources of magic. So they start making a magic school to recover all that was probably lost. And I think that is going to take 3. It's going to take 3 quarters to get that up and rolling with both town working together.
Yeah, they've had some practice down in the Silver Room, in the Silver Cavern.
Yeah. there's a connection between that strut and the Silver Cavern, of course. I don't know if the Boiler Room Witches are showing the Overtonians it, but...
Who's to say?
We'll find out.
You later. That's who.
Just because there's one that's Drake, I'm gonna have it be Strut Drake, because, Drake magic.
It's Drake like the duck. The guy who named it Strut Drake wanted to name it after a duck that he liked. And it's like, oh yeah, it's a boy duck. It's a Drake. And everybody was like, oh cool, like the lizard. And he was like, no, like the duck. The ducks are cool. It's like, no, but the lizards are more cool. It's a long history of back and forth.
Yeah, which is part of why it ended up getting abandoned, because, like, people on both sides of the argument kept, like, pulling pranks on each other and just...
Why not just make it a duck dragon? Just combine the two, you guys.
No, that'd be silly. Not majestic like a duck.
Okay, well, my project has finished. Feel free if we want to, like, curtail this or change it, because this is going to be a bigger swing here.
We're here to make big swings.
Been a while since something bad happened.
Presumably very important member of the Geyer clan, now we don't need to worry about their name, steps onto a not only repaired but improved bison statue, which now projects a really more of a speech than a message across Tarsig as pamphlets and newspapers are spread about. And this concerned member of the Geyer clan details this cabal of witches who go by the Boiler Room Witches, who have been creating a false war with these pirates down below, displacing people from their homes by physically moving them, bleeding the corporate investors, those who keep the financial institutions of Tarsig running, by extorting them through basically ransom, and are now trying to steal those factories and means of production from the people who have spent all of this time and money trying to keep them afloat. And the Geyer clan as a whole is calling for the populations of both Tarsig and the Overton to rally against those who would, take these things away from its citizens, to stop allowing them to be from being deceived and all of this. And we'll have to see how many people buy these things, and there is certainly some amount of evidence, who's to say how much is forged and what is not, within these newspapers and pamphlets that are being passed out. The Geyer clan has been doing a lot of garnering goodwill with their repairs of strut bison, and have been doing a lot to try and get the wheels of industry moving, and seem to be succeeding fairly well, at least on their own strut. So that's at least what's happening right now. I want to see the consequences of that.
If I could propose an additional effect for this, I think because they've been able to get strut bison back up and operational, and because they're employing the management tactics that people are familiar with as opposed to some of the better ones that have been cropping up in places here or there, the run ones, I think we can put magical goods onto our abundances list.
I think so.
I've also taken 2 contempt on the part of Tarsig, because anybody who knows kind of what's going on knows that this is an outright lie. People who don't know what's going on are like, oh, good, we've got somebody to hate.
No, yeah, Vane is rallying against them. It's like, no, don't forget how things were before.
Yeah, and I think to contempt from the part of Overton also, because it's kind of there's some people who were like, oh no, we know these witches, they're not bad. This evidence linking them to the pirates seems dodgy, but that's weird. And then other people who don't know what the witches, who are have no reason to disbelieve this. if they have had no contact with like many people from Tarsig or the witches.
Bad. Hate this.
And a fake contempt for being so loud right next to all of their houses. They were trying to nap.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's just gotta be. And also just the more pollution the pollution's kicking back out of the gas is gross.
Mm-hmm.
And now I get to take an action again, I think.
Yes, you do. You get to take an action, discover something new, hold a discussion, or start a project.
So there was a mercenary who had lived in Tarsig for a while before they had to leave when the bridge showed up and all the craziness happened, and then they ended up on one of the pirate crews. So they lean more on the side of Tarsig, but they're also like, things need to change, and I need to find a way to make a living. And this member of the pirate crew discovers the lost true name of the Wraith, of the ghost. The entity that no one can remember. They haven't used it yet, but they know it.
I was gonna give it to one of the Gyres, but I'm like,
I don't like them. So we'll give it to the pirates. So there's like, it can go in different directions other than enforcing propaganda. I like doing that in my books, not to characters, so that I have to talk about out loud.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd trust the Gyres with true name magic at this point.
No.
They definitely have no act. They're just spreading the truth and probably don't even know what true name magic is, so don't worry about it.
Exactly.
I'm upset on behalf of the Boiler Room Witches, how dare.
You mean the eco-terrorists who blew up Strut Bison?
Caused so much death and devastation?
Yeah.
We know who did that. That wasn't, none of them were witches.
They
Do we,
put
though? We
flying
actually don't.
scorpions into Strut Titan.
Mm-hmm. They populated it with flying, and what's worse is the weirdos that they keep in the basement aren't letting us go in and clear them out with flamethrowers.
And because they're doing all this illegal
Going
magic,
into a discussion, let's move on.
The waters turn the frickin' frogs gay.
I was gonna say, because they're doing all this illegal magic, there's ghosts everywhere.
Now they're trying to make a magic school?
Politics in my game?
Turn on the
More
magic.
likely than you think. Anyway, so Lex,
Uh-huh.
you get a card now.
I do get a card. Yeah, it's true.
You have the Jack of Summer. Of all things, Jack to Jack. Predators and bad omens are afoot. You are careless and someone goes missing under ominous circumstances. Who? Or, predators and bad omens are afoot. What measures do you take to keep everyone safe and under... Do not reduce project...
I mean, it's the Jack, so I gotta do something with the cats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either way, it's gotta be the cats, right? I gotta. Also, they're like my favorite little pet project in the city. I love them.
A pet project? Really?
Boo! I'm never not gonna boo you. You need to know.
And I'm never not gonna take easy wordplay jokes, so...
Ugh. Okay. I think the first of 10 is trying to make some moves again. Either way. And either way, the alley cats are in the crosshairs. So, I think one of the Overtonians is going to take an interest in like these like orphans and kids that are just on the street right now. Even like one of the gray folk specifically.
Of course.
They see a lot of themselves in them, you know, the whole beast powers thing. And I think they're going to keep them safe by just straight up asking them to move into Overton. Because like we established, they're mostly orphans. And Overton initially came from Zala, which has a lot of like family and like adoption's like a huge part of the culture over there. So like I feel like that would stay with this. They'd be making space for them in Overton to keep them safe.
And by now with Overton, they seem to pick up people wherever they go. So they've found out that we can always find for some reason we can always find the space for them.
Yeah.
I mean, the original population of Overton was exclusively, basically, almost exclusively escape prisoners, right?
Yeah, they're like escapees and freedom fighters. Like,
Yeah, with some various random soldiers and people on the bridge when it left.
Are we establishing essentially that, like, the majority of the alley cats are now in Overton, if not basically all of them?
I think it's all because I don't think they were that big to begin.
Yeah.
Like, definitely no more than like a dozen, I think.
People just thought that they were bigger because they hung out with a lot of actual cats.
Yeah, they get a lot of actual cats to help. Yeah, there's for sure a lot of cats moving to the bridge now.
Great. Overton has lots of cats. Great.
Unironically love that.
I believe that would be referred to as an abundance.
An abundance of
We
cats,
gained an
yeah.
abundance of cats.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
I'm writing that down.
Well, yeah, obviously. But Project Dice don't decrease this time?
No,
Mm-mm.
so we're not any closer
Sorry.
to
It
Struck Drake
narratively
coming
it,
up.
it does fit.
Mhm.
Narratively wise, I blame Rob.
Camera seeing is the cats moving onto the bridge, but like what First of 10 is doing is what's keeping the project from finishing. One presumes.
Which I was going to get to with my action.
Please.
Right?
The alley cats moving into Overton. I think it's all of them except for Jack, because the effects of all the true names getting jumbled are still affecting Jack, and also many people that were victims of the First of 10. And because what we established was when the bridge got here, the First of 10, their body died, but they just moved their name to someone else somewhere.
Gotcha.
And then with like all those names changing at once, with like the city changing its name, I feel like the First of 10, their power got all messed up, and they're like trying to like get like stable again. So they're gonna. So I think their goal is like go around to the people they've messed with before, and kind of like taking little bits of their power they left behind to get back to some kind of sense of stability.
So is the bad omen then that suddenly people are acting very strange, like they're
Uh-huh.
not themselves or don't remember, like are just losing bits of memory in themselves?
No, they're just getting
that's
caught
great.
up with the truth that the Geyer clan is putting out in taking action like any smart citizen would.
Sure,
Rob,
guy.
are you implying the First of 10's working with the Geyers?
In my head, that was the First of 10 on top of the bull.
Oh, in my head, that guy was named Guy Geyer.
Guy Geyer, yeah, of course.
In my head, why the fuck would First of 10 be like, oh, they just don't like my past brand. We just needed rebranding.
Second first, same as the first.
But it does not have to be the truth, but that's in my head, that's where that
So
was leading.
I think the project, aside from saving Jack, it is trying to fix like the swath of people who have been fucked with by the First of 10, like reestablishing like their giving them their identities back. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think this is like a group project where like Overton got these kids and went, they did what? And so Overton's like, we're gonna do something about this, and they go, hey, Boiler Room Witches, we hear you do magic shit. We're not wizards up there. We're teaming up now.
And they're like, wait, they did what?
Yeah.
Incredible. So how long do you think this will take?
I would say 4 if we had more time. Or it's just not done before we leave.
And they're stuck on the bridge with bridge leaves.
Yeah.
There are still 6 prompts left if we can get through them all.
I'm gonna go with 4 quarters for this.
Sick. Comes in close.
Been up to a lot of shit.
Uh-huh. I think that's how long it would take, honestly.
For sure.
Even though I want to make sure it gets done, I don't... yeah. It's risky.
Well, we're here to make risks, take chances, make big
Let's
moves.
get weedy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hey.
Dad,
Yes.
you have the 8 of summer. Someone tries to take control of the community by force. Do they succeed? Why do they do this? Or a headstrong community member decides to put one of their ideas in motion. Start a foolish project.
This was the big boat.
The big boat?
Sorry, that's from another thing. Another game of this I played. I realized that was not with y'all.
Okay.
But it was a really good game. But
Zad, what if there's a big boat?
Hey, what if it was a big boat? Except, like, here's the thing that this boat is. There's a lot of ghost fish out there, and we gotta do something about these fish. And I think that the thing we gotta do about these fish is we gotta ghost eat these ghost fish. Gotta eat a fish about it. I think it is somebody from a weirdo from Plague Town meets a weirdo from Overton in a bar, I think presumably on Overton, and they drink some of that good, like some of the early batches of that scorpion honey mead, and they're like, do you know what we need? We need a temple to Degale, right? Because traveling god, except it's a big boat, and we're gonna go around and we're gonna eat a fish about it. They were both very drunk at the time. So this is gonna be a 4-step project to try and start a religion on a boat.
I love
All
it.
right.
To start a religion about eating ghost fish.
Eating the ghost fish, or the real fish, eating the fish.
What do they think is going to happen if they successfully manage to eat a ghost fish? I'm curious.
Well, so I heard this story from my dad, who heard it from some folks at a place that we were, and it's that if you eat the right fish, what you get is magical laser beam powers, and you get to shoot a magical laser beam, and it just makes everything better. It's perfect. You just gotta do is you gotta eat the right fish.
Learn how to shoot laser beams.
You just learn how to shoot. Well, you gotta eat a fish about it. Is the thing. You don't want to get scorpioned, but you do want to eat a fish about it. Says this drunk
It's
person to
scorpion
this other
fish
drunk
boy.
person. Yes. And so that's the dumb project that we're starting. That's going to be a 3-turn project? 4-turn? That's going to take a year. Within a year, they're going to have followers. That's a 4-turn project.
Incredible. Perfection.
Magic School finally takes down one.
Yay!
Yay! Speaking of, this one's actually going to be a 2-turn project, and what it is going to be is, I think Yvain actually gets together with some folks who know how to handle the scorpions, and gets into the floor of the old stock exchange with the dome pulled back, and announces to the entire town that in 6 months' time we are going to have elections. And the elections are going to be to determine the new structure and ruling council of Tarsig. And that's going to be a 2-turn project.
Democracy only takes 2 turns. Love that.
6 months.
If it
6 months to
succeeds.
put together if it succeeds.
There is a small chance that we don't find out if it succeeds.
There's a small chance that we don't find out. Yeah. So
There's always
that's
a chance.
It's a chance that we fuck around and don't find out.
It's one of my favorite things to do is not finding out.
Well, you know what I really enjoy? The next prompt.
Well, that's fantastic, Rob, because it's your prompt.
No way!
Yahweh, you have the 4 of summer. The eldest among you dies. What caused the death? Or, the eldest among you is very sick. Caring for them and searching for a cure requires the help of the higher. Do not reduce project dice this week.
So, there are those who cannot resist the allure of the mystery of the giant skeleton.
Oh yeah, they've definitely been working to uncover that further.
Yeah. And there was a great boon in that part of the skeleton was actually pretty close to reprieve. Part of the skeleton, the fossilized skeleton, they found a section where they could actually, like, pretty easily from reprieve start excavating it. But as more and more of the skeleton is dug up, good news, bad news situation. Good news, people stop seeing ghost fish everywhere. Bad news, it's because they're seeing him all around the skeleton in really high quantity. And after a couple weeks where the skeleton has been, like, excavated fully, that, like, one section before it goes, like, towards a downwards angle deeper in the volcano, people are feeling sluggish. It's like that like enchantment that was on some of the struts that kind of make people not energized, but they don't feel tired, just like the opposite. Like, energy is, like, being drained away from some people, and there are some people, especially those who don't have a strong constitution to begin with, who are found just unmoving in their beds, drained of energy. And reprieve is a lot of people have to move or try and figure out some kind of wards. I feel like Overton probably gets a bit of a surge of population, but unfortunately people who stay in that neighborhood are having their life force slowly drained away by the forces around that skeleton.
I added 2 contempt from Tarsig. I'm tempted to make it 3, because this is not cool. Would you stop digging there, please?
No.
Tarsig is now very contempty. This is the most contempt I've seen in a game so far.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
Don't worry, the elections are gonna fix it.
I know. Projects do move forward, so we're only one away from... Yeah.
Although I was gonna say, I should have removed a contempt when the cats got, like, a place to live, because I feel like...
yeah, I think let's remove one from each for that, because
I feel
Overton's
like the concept of less homeless children is kind of just good.
Yeah,
for
the
Yeah.
Overtonians like
People like that.
cats, and they like new people, I think. That feels
Also,
good.
I think Tarsig 2 came off from that, because it's like, y'all are cool, but still we had some added on when... What did you bring with you? There's some that probably like, this is your fault. Nothing like this ever happened until you came here. This is your fault.
We've been living here for how long? We never found this before you got here. Nick sure blamed the outsider.
So, I'm gonna make a discovery. In the process of, like, trying to fix these names, and then with the whole haunting of the residential neighborhood, the Overtonians go to move and help out a lot with some of the Tarsig citizens, and those of the Overtonians who are more magically inclined, like, learn about some of the history of, like, hauntings and ghosts of like natural entities, or a lot of fish through the city's history. And at one point, a particularly well-learned individual sees the Barracuda spirit, right? Sees, like, this kind of what to what, especially now, as like people have been just kind of living with ghosts in their town for over a year, and so there's a like barracuda spirit, as the Tarsig people have called it, has come like a folk legend, right? Like it's almost like a cryptid in that way, but like way worse because it's very real and hurting machines and now people. And the person from Overton is like, there's no way that's a barracuda. Have you ever seen a barracuda? And everyone's like, no, we don't go in the ocean. Like, that's not a barracuda. And they look into it, and the shape of it, when you aren't coming at it thinking it's a barracuda, because that's what the urban legends are of it, the skull looks very similar to the shape of the skull that's been dug up from the volcano.
Okay.
The structure, how the ribs and vertebrae are, seem to match up with the section that is now exposed under where people live. But people don't know quite what to do about that yet. Anyway,
People in Tarsig are not thrilled. They were just fine not knowing that.
Well, they know it now.
Don't worry, it's not a barracuda spirit, everyone.
I'm sure there are plenty of people who are still morbidly curious about what it is. Me, I'm
For
people.
sure.
Okay. Let's see what the next prompt is. Ooh, I have the 3 of Summer. Summer is a time for production and tending to the earth. Start a project related to food production. Or, summer is a time for conquest and the gathering of might. Start a project related to military readiness and conquest. I believe I also got this one the last time that I played Quiet Year. Well, I have an idea for one, and I have an idea for the other. The idea that I have for Overton, which should probably be the deciding factor because I'm technically representing Overton here, would be for the food production project. In that we haven't really set up food growth on the bridge yet. They've just been relying on where the bridge ends up. But since we are increasing the number of people on there, I think it might behoove them to start a little section of agricultural growth on the bridge. Bit of a change of pace from how things have been going.
Yeah, what part of the bridge do you want to set that?
I'm tempted to have a section where it basically takes up along... Well, do I want it on the sides or do I want it in the center? Because it's going to have walkways.
You know those like potted plants that like are right outside windows and everything in like
Yeah,
the city?
have everybody have their own little mini garden.
No, I'm gonna say those, but along the entire edge of the bridge.
Oh,
Yep. Well, we've got that safety infrastructure. It's got like hanging gardens underneath, and
Yeah.
people know how to navigate that area.
Filling parachutes with soil and making them gardens.
Yeah, a parachute garden.
sounds a little heavy.
My thought was, where's the one place that you're guaranteed to know where water is? The hole, the fountain. So you
The
set up
fountain.
like a well and have like greenhouses around it because the bridge has to be over water at that point.
And kind of like expand out the fountain area to just have this nice green like gathering place. Kind of like the garden in
Never.
the Sanctuary
Mhm.
game. Yeah, something like that.
Oh, right.
There might be a bit of both.
Those do also have very different time requirements to me, though, as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think just getting the steady growth started is their priority because they can always replant and expand later, like when they find new spots or just adjust to the sun situation of wherever they end up. So the movability of that would be helpful. But yeah, I think just set up a little, maybe kind of raised garden-ish area, or just a combination of some lower down growth and some raised gardens, maybe some experimenting with some hydroponics over in the fountain area towards the, more like where you were, Zed, towards the opposite of where the primary housing is. In this case, towards the east in Tarsig.
Okay, how many turns is that going to be?
I think since they'd need to do the structure bit, get it prepared before they can do any of the actual planting, not including the full growth of the plants, 2 seasons.
2 turns to get it fully like set up and ready to go.
Ready to go, like if your crops fails, you can try again.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds good.
Now we count down.
So I feel like a first in, first out policy should be good because we have 2 things finishing right now.
Yeah. Magic school is done.
It took a little longer than expected due to a certain someone's steady stream of propaganda. Yes, I'm looking at you, Rob. But they are able to get something started. They have a bunch of information and knowledge and a better understanding of how the magic for the boiler room witches and the cats work, as well as understanding how other kinds of magic work, just from all the information that Zalo picked up. Because I do think that they shared a lot, because they've learned the importance of that. So I think in the light of all these strange things that are going on while there's still some contention, having a better understanding of the way the world works and beyond just the way that individual people interact with specific kinds of magic, I think that helps ease a lot of the tension with all the weird things that are going on, because it's like things get a little less scary when you have a little bit of a better understanding of them. They may not understand everything, but like, okay, we now, we know a little bit more about ghosts and how they function.
I think if you wouldn't mind, I would like to do a little reveal. I feel like they would have figured something out that I have in my head. Between the sharing information, like working on understanding like the spirits and names that are here, that I feel like they would zone a little bit closer on what that skeleton might be. Like, there being very powerful ancient creatures is not an unknown mysterious quantity, and so I think that this school kind of lands on the creature that this is the skeleton of being the Tarsig. Like, that's its name. It was the Tarsig.
And they start to learn more. They actually have an education system beyond how to use this machine.
Fair enough. And then democracy.
Everything gets organized, and it gets organized rather quickly. A framework is rapidly proposed and agreed upon using this election framework. There's a lot of compromises and a lot of backroom dealings. I think that Yvain is really kind of run ragged, just even getting enough people in the same room. And some real compromises get made based on who gets to be there. So the 4 major parties I think that end up forming are the labor unionists, the Tarsigists, which is going to be... So the labor unionists are led by Yvain and a man named Jarlos, who doesn't actually do a whole lot of organizing, but everybody seems to like him. The Tarsigists are led by Guy Geyer and this old association of managers.
Name can't be Guy Geyer.
It's led by
It's unspoken into canon.
No, sorry, that's a no. That can't be.
Just the head of the Geyer family.
No, that's not who it is. It's led by Gal Geyer. Lex is flipping off. And fair enough. Anyways, so Gal Geyer is also running to be president of this town. There's a moderate party that includes like some police, and that's a compromised position. And then there's what I've got written here is the fish eating people's faces party, and that's run by the ghost of the Barracuda. And yeah, I think like an election happens, and I think it's kind of messy. I'm gonna take it contempt on the part of Tarsig, but like actual representation ends up happening.
It's not perfect, but it's a step in a better direction.
Yeah. Well, and I think like the labor unionists end up, they're able to get a lot of the vote and have a really solid footing of representation. I don't know.
It's not clean.
Yeah, it's not clean. I don't think people are universally happy with the results. But like one of the things that ends up happening early on is when the one group is like, well, managers should be reinstilled, we should be getting all of the factories back online, and that's proposed by Geyer and the Association of Managers. One of the things, like the compromise position that they end up arguing it down to, is anybody who is occupying one of the derricks, one of the struts, they get to maintain functional ownership and use of that strut. And that means that the small-scale manufacturing that was getting done continues to get done. Sure, Bison has the most output, but it's an unpleasant place to work. Wouldn't you rather go to one of the smaller ones? So, messy, it's democracy. It's not perfect, but it's a real step in the right direction, and labor ends up with a pretty reasonably good seat at the table. As we're kind of wrapping up here.
Yeah, and that's just like the head position. There are positions underneath that, so it's a step towards a little more balance.
There are now like options. Not everything is run by the Association of Managers. There are places to work that have different value structures.
Here's a question:
It's
does
not all
Overton? Does Overton vote?
No.
No, you don't think
No.
that they would?
No, they
Participate.
know they're gonna leave eventually, so like
They probably offer some guidance, some consulting.
they probably serve as mediators or
The city's left in a place where it can function nicely and work well for the people if and when they vanish suddenly.
In my head, the big societal lesson taken away from Nairburn is to try and leave in a good way and in a way that leaves the community intact, right?
Yeah.
Like, that feels like something that people would be like, okay, that went almost really bad.
Yeah, they learned their lesson the hard way the first time they traveled, and that suddenly there's this big fight, big battle between them and the other people, and then suddenly they vanish, and it's like, well, we don't want to experience that again.
Yeah,
Right.
there've probably been a couple of other messy interactions, but they've learned. So I think, Lex, you mentioned something
absolutely.
about them being the mediator.
yeah, they're probably like the neutral party or whatever at like
They're
the debates
running
or
the
whatever.
debates.
Yeah.
Yeah, running the debates, helping. Yeah, they assist, they provide advice, they share knowledge, they do not vote.
Ultimately, it's the local people who have to make the decisions.
Yeah.
There is an actual assassination that occurs that can't be traced back to anybody, but somebody who was genuinely injecting toxicity into the discourse just disappeared one day. And, everybody was just like, well, pirates must have gotten them. Never
Must have
mind
been
the
the
claw
ghost.
marks. Yep, must have been the ghosts. Must have
Damn,
been
they
the
got
ghosts.
scorpioned.
Got scorpioned.
It scored.
Anyways, So
What a weird sentence
it's a
to give me
functioning-
deja vu.
We've got one last action to round out summer here.
Okay. We all like our little things that we help build and create, and I like my little giant fossil-y skeleton guy. Whatever he is, Tarsig. The Tarsig.
Mm-hmm.
Good? Bad? I don't know. We won't know. But what we do know is people aren't gonna stop just because weird things happen. That's why we have so many horror movies. So they keep digging. They keep excavating. And they even get so far as to finish excavating the entire skull. And what they discover is there's something inside it. Not just dirt, not just rock, but there is an actual structure inside this skull. It doesn't look like he just ate it and choked, but it's actually, it grew in there, fused, attached to the skull. This is part of the skull. Even though it definitely looks like it doesn't belong there. It's got shelves and shit. How do I describe this? this weird construct. It does kind of look like a shrine. But not one that anyone can recognize. There are what you would think would be carvings and etchings and runes in the bone itself, but they don't look like they were carved there. They look like they're part of it. Except that nobody can read or understand what they say.
Is this a shrine of a forgotten god?
Could be.
You notice I say a forgotten god.
We can have several.
It'd be weird if the god with no name was in the place with all the true name magic. That'd be so weird. Anyway.
I wasn't thinking about that, but who knows?
You know what? That'll have to be a mystery for the people of Tarsig to parse, because as this discovery is made, the election ringing throughout the city of Tarsig, this palpable feeling of a new beginning and a new direction. The bridge, which has been here for 2.5 years. 2.5 years goes away.
I do want to say, though, my project never finished. So I think a consequence of that is before the bridge leaves, Jack does return to the fold. But just a little different than everyone remembered.
Oh no.
And that's all for this episode of the Game Moving Podcast. Thank you all here at the table for doing what you all do so well. Thank you especially all for listening. Thank you for Future Brief for editing this mess and putting in so much hard work to this podcast. If you, like me, appreciate what Bree does, come on over to patreon.com/gamewoven and we would be more than happy to have you. Also, check us out on the socials at GameWoven and our Discord.
The Discord.
Yes!
We do have a Discord.
We do have
A
a
Discord.
You don't
Well,
have to be a
that's all.
patron to join the Discord.
You do.
You
not.
just have to want to be there.
Patreon.com/GameWoven and check us out. But most importantly, thank you so much for listening. It means a lot. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't, and everything in between on our socials and our Discord and all that. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Game Woven. This has been a quiet year, summer, featuring Zadkiel Brianna Jean, robbrolling, Lex Olden, and Emily Anderson. If you like what we're doing, please go support us on Patreon, tell your friends about us, tell your neighbors, and go follow us on social media at Game Woven.